Welcome all to the weekly outlook. Boone here from EWPRO. Getting straight into the weekly outlook, starting with the DXY on the daily. We got this WXY, X2, a Z down. This only just broke that low. There's two possible scenarios, like I've been mentioning. This can either be the bottom and we go up and break the top, or what I'm more inclined to be looking at is an A, B, C as a running or expanding flat before we get more downside. And this is a larger correction on the daily. On the H4, we've been looking for this retracement, a similar size correction over here. We're looking for that 38.2 or even a 50 fib retracement. On the H1, there was a trade in here on the lower time frames for that there. It's come straight back up. So if I go back to the H4, so what I'm expecting is I'm looking for a correction in here and then another one up, giving us an A, B, and then we get a C down. Looking for a correction in here before we can look for that wave Z up. At this stage, there really isn't anything to trade on it. On the H1, we do have a bear hidden here. So, like I said, we may get a correction in here, another one up, and then come down and break that low. AU on the daily. So this is going pretty much how I've been looking at it. We got that move up in the A wave, and then we've got an A, B, C in here. There still is possible more downside in it. We are starting to get bullish divergence within these two lows here. But I'm only looking for buys. We have that bullish divergence on the daily now. H4, it's just one wave down, and we're getting a sharp move up. So you can start to look for a buy. What we'd be looking for is we're waiting for a correction, ideally back to the 50 fib. This looks corrective in here and you get a buy set up, then you can look for a buy for at least an A, B, C. Wherever that 100 fib is, you can take half off and keep the rest for the daily. This would be your ultimate target here on the daily. EU. So this is pretty well playing out as well. How I've been looking at it as an A, B, C in the B wave, and then we get that A, B, C. Looking for a running or expanding flat in here before we get more upside. H4, there's still maybe more downside in it, very similar to AU. We've got to move down here, so we may get a correction in here, another one down before we get an A, B, C up to that 38.2, and then we get that W, X, Y, X2 and a Z down. So we may be in a correction all next week before we can get a trade to the downside to finish off the wave Z, and then we'll be looking for the buys. GU on the daily. There's two scenarios here, like I've been mentioning. I've got it as a possible expanding triangle as an A, B, C, D, and we get an E down here and then give us that larger C up. The other scenario is this is an A, B, C in here, and this is the C up here. And if this is the case, well, we'd be getting an A, B, C, or WXY, X2, and a Z up in here as an extended wave. On the H4, we got a nice breakout. We do have a bear hidden here. We have a bear hidden here, so you have to be very careful. If you got a correction in here, you could look for one down. You'd be targeting the 100 fib wherever that is. After you get this correction, you could draw that 100 fib. I'd be taking half off there and leaving the rest to run, because you only be looking to break that low for the bear hidden, and then you'd be looking for more upside. On the H1, it was pretty difficult to trade. We had we got a WXY, X2, and a Z up. We lost all the bearish divergence. We did have a bull hidden in here, so we were looking for this to go and break that top. Now we're getting another bull hidden here. So again, I'd be looking for a correction in here, and then we get an A, B, C in here, and then we'll go up and break that top again. You'd be able to wait for this correction. You could look for the sell. It'll be a riskier sell. I'd be more interested in waiting for the 3 down, and then, you know, if you got a buy set up on the lower time frames, you could look for that buy to go and break the top again. NU on the daily. So this one's looking quite nice. We got that A, B, C. Hasn't quite got that down to that 100 fib there. So there is possible a little bit more downside. We are getting bullish divergence in here. So I'll be looking for an A, B, C. We need to go down to the lower time frames to see if this internal wave C down is over. The H4, we got this like WXY. I'll be looking for a X2 and a possible Z down to that 100 fib. We don't have any bear hidden here, so really need to be careful looking for the sell. I'm more interested in the longer term buy for that C up on the daily. But on the H1, you know, this can turn more complex here as well. You know, we get a move down here, we get a correction, and then another one down before we get an A, B, C, giving us a similar size correction as X1 over here in X2 before we get a Z down, possibly down to that 100 fib. GY on the daily. So we're looking at that WXY. I'll be looking for an X2 and then a wave Z up. So really have to wait for a correction of similar size to X1 over here in X2 before you start looking for buys again. On the H4, we're starting to get all this bearish divergence. So you definitely don't want to be buying up the top here. This may be a flat, like we get some sort of an A, B, C as a running or expanding flat, and then get another one up. But really, at this stage, I'm be really only interested in a sell, and I'd be targeting that 38.2 retracement. There's no sell set up on it at this stage. On the H1, we're still getting all this bearish divergence. Again, this may be a smaller flat as an A, B, C, as a running or expanding flat before we get another one up. Ideally for the sell, we'd get a nice break below this low, give us a correction, and then we could look for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down to this 38.2, and then we could start to look for the buys. UI on the daily. This is quite difficult. There's two scenarios here. I've only been going on to the one scenario on YouTube, but there is a chance that this does go up and break that top. I can't really go into that on here, but we have an A. I'm looking at an A, B, C. So we get some sort of a running or expanding flat in here, and then we get an A, B, C before we get an A, B, C. On the H4, we're starting to get bearish divergence again. So, you know, this is looking more bullish in here. We do have a bull hidden there, bullish hidden divergence in here. So I dare say this will go up and break that top, giving us even more bearish divergence, and then any sell setup, nice impulse down, a sell setup, and you can start to look for that sell down for the A, B, C to finish off the B wave, and then we get more upside. At this stage, I really wouldn't be. I'll just take this off. You're getting a flag in here. It's very risky. But you could take it. You definitely want to be break even at the break of the top, because again we'll be getting more bearish divergence. You'd be looking for, on the lower time frames, you'd be looking for a correction in here, and it looks like we got some sort of a WXY X2, and you'd be looking for a correction in here and then trading the Z up, and that Z up may go up and break that top. But I'll be more interested in the sell with all the bearish divergence that's forming. USD CAD on the daily, like I've been saying for a very long time, we're looking for a correction very similar over here. I'm sort of looking for a WXY X2 and a possible Z up, and then we get an A, B, C. We didn't get that Z up. Instead, we got a move down, and we're getting a correction in here. So if we go down to the H4, we can see what's happening in here. This is very difficult again to trade, because this is the top here. This top here didn't go and break it. So we got an A, B, C in here as a contracting flat. The problem is this can turn more complex, and we get an A, B, C in here, and then we get an A, B, C before we get a larger A, B, C. So this is quite complex to trade. We're not getting higher highs. This is the high here. This one didn't quite go and break the high. So we have some sort of a WXY. You'd have to wait for an X2 and then look for your Z down. you really need to wait for this correction if you're going to look for the sell at this stage. And this sell here, after this correction here, was very difficult to get on. You would have had to look at this A, B, C in here on the lower time frames to get in this down here. Looking at the Swissy, we're looking at that A, B, C. We got all this bullish divergence. This here doesn't look impulsive though. Ideally, I'd be looking for that 50 fib retrace. When we go down to the lower time frames, it's very choppy. You can see that I'm looking at a possible expanding flat in here, as an A, B, C as an expanding flat, before we get more downside. To finish off the move, and then, I'd be looking for the larger buy after the low's been broken. There's really no setup on it. This is more bullish. This is still very much bullish. We have bullish hidden divergence here. So, if you got, it's a risky trade. If you got a correction in here though, on the lower time frames and a buy setup, you could look to go and break that top. You definitely want to be at break even at that break of that top, because we'll be getting even more bearish divergence. So you could look for this trade just as a scalp, and then, if you got any sort of impulse down, a flag or a correction, you could look for the sell to go and break the low for that flat that's on the H4. EG, this is a very slow pair. Looking for that A, B, C. This still can come down to that 100 fib. It's been very slow in here. We already have the 5 down on the H4. We got that W, X, Y, X2, and we're in that Z down. We're losing all the bullish divergence. On the H1, are we getting bullish divergence here? We are getting bullish divergence on the H1. It does still look bearish. Really, we may get upside in here and give us a bear hidden. If it gives us a bear hidden in here, well, then you could look for a sell just to go and break that low, giving us even more bullish divergence. And then, you'd be looking for a nice impulse up, a correction or flag, and then you could look for a buy. I'm more interested in the buy when we're down here. We may not, on the daily, we've already broken below this ending point of wave A in this wave C. There may be still more downside, and I dare say it'll be very choppy. I'll be more inclined to wait for all this to be over, and then look for the buy. But yeah, there's really not much on it at the moment. Like I said, on the H1, you'd really have to wait for your correction up here. And if it does give you that bear hidden, well, then you could look for a sell. If it doesn't give you the bear hidden, I'd stay out of the sell. I wouldn't attempt to take the sell. WTI. So we got that WXY, A, B, C as the larger correction, and then we get that like A, B, C. This one has broken the low, and we're getting all that bullish divergence. So I'm only looking for buys. This flat here, you would have seen for the last few weeks. you know, I'm looking for this A, B, C, and then we get that A, B, C. At least to the 100 fib. I'd be targeting at least the 100 fib, and then we'll see if we get a break through this 100 fib. If we get a break through this 100 fib, well, then you could keep the trade, and this will be the low. But if you get a trade in here, you know, I'd be taking half off at that 100 fib and then letting the rest run. If you get a bounce off the 100 fib and a sell set up, well, then I'd be taking off the second half. You know, it may come down and break that low again on the daily. There's nothing to say that it's over on the daily yet. So this may be just a larger correction, and then we get an A, B, C. On the H1, again, this was quite, we got like a WXY. We have a bear hidden here. So it's quite risky to buy at this stage. We'd really want to see a break above this top and then give us a correction in here. Oops. Really want to see a break above this top and then a correction. And then you could look for a buy up to that 100 fib on the H4. For the sell, for the hidden, you'd really need to go down to the lower time frames. If I just go down onto the lower time frame on this one, so get a WXY, A, B, C. We may get a flat in here, and then we get another one up. And then if you got the sell set up in here, you know, you could look for that sell for the bear hidden. Yeah. So you'll have to be pretty careful on this one. It may come and break the low for that hidden. Looking at gold. So this one's turning quite complex as well. We got that like A. I'm looking at this as an A wave as well. And then another A, B, C in here. So I'm sort of looking at this as a flat, a possible flat in here, and we get another one up, giving us an A, B, C in here, and then we get an A, B, C as a running or expanding flat before we get that A, B, C, possibly up to the weekly target, that 123.6. So I'm sort of looking at a more complex correction. We don't have any bull hidden here, so I'd really like to see a little bit more downside in it to give us that bull hidden. This is more on the H1. This trade in here. You'll see from the last couple of weeks, we got this WXY, X2, the Z down. We got the 5 down. This was looking very choppy though. So I was looking for an A, B, C as a expanding flat in here before we get another one down. So on this one here, you could look for a sell. You definitely can look for a sell on this one. You'd be waiting for a correction in here on the lower time frames or on the M15, and then you could look for a sell to go and break the low. At least break this low over here. Ideally, it breaks this low here, and then, you know, any bullish setup, then you can start to load up on the buys. But yeah, this is looking very much like a correction as that expanding flat. as the A, B, C, and then we get more downside to go and break that low. I'm more interested in the buys. You could scalp the sell like I just showed, but I'm more interested in the buy. Looking at silver, got that WXY, X2, we had that bull hidden here, and we got that wave Z up. We lost the bearish divergence in here, so I'm just looking for a correction in here, and possibly more upside to finish off the X2 on the weekly, and then possibly come down and break that low. On the H4, there's really not much at all. Like I said last week, or the last few weeks, we can only look for sells, and we're looking for that 50 fib retrace. We're down at that 50 fib retrace now. Now we're starting to get a correction in here. So you could look for an A, B, C in here, before we get an A, B, C, or it goes down and breaks a low from here. On the H1, this was your trade in here, to buy. I showed this in the trading group, this buy here. We did look for a buy over here as well. That didn't break, and it gave us a lower low here. Then it gave us this correction in here. This was your buy here. You'd really have to go down onto the lower time frames to get, like, we have another bull hidden here. So more than likely we'll get a little bit more downside, and then it'll go up and break that top, taking out all the stops, and then it'll give it another one down, breaking that low. So you will have to be careful with the buys at this stage. We'll probably get some sort of WXY, X2, and a Z up, finishing off the correction, and then we get another one down. You could scalp the buy if you know how to trade the hidden divergences. Bitcoin on the daily. Like I said last week, I'm looking for the A, B, and a C as an expanding flat, like I've been looking for a long time, and then we get that one down, breaking the low again. The problem is, like I said last week, this is very corrective, and then we'll get that Z up. So we get a W, X, Y, X2, and a Z up, and then, if you get the sell set up, then you can look for the sell to go and break the low. It's pretty much playing out how I said last week. I was looking for that W, X, Y, X2. We get a correction in here for an A, B, C, and then we get another one down. That's pretty much what's playing out. So I'll be looking for that wave Z down. Then after that wave Z down, you could look for any buy setup on the lower time frames. Let's go and break this top, and then you'll be looking for sells. On the H1, we don't have any bull hidden here. I would be leaving the sell alone and just waiting for it to break the low, and then waiting for the buy setup. The larger impulse is going to be up to the upside. So I'd be letting price action break the low in that wave Z, and then I'd be looking for the buy setup. You can scalp it, but it's quite risky. It's quite risky selling just at this time. Yeah. S&P 500. So this is playing out pretty much exactly how I've been looking at it for a very long time now. I'll put the trade idea out on TradingView over here somewhere for this C up. So I'm looking at that A, B, C. This is your first target, that 100 fib, and it may even get up to that second target. This may turn motive as a WXY, X2, and a Z up breaking the top. The H4 is playing out exactly how I'm been looking at it. You know, we've got that WXY, X2, the Z up. Then we've got that A, B, C down as that running flat. And then we're looking for more upside as the A, I'll just go A, B, and a C up. At this stage, if you're not in it, it's going to be hard to get in it. You really had to get in on this here. We got that nice impulse up. This was your correction to buy. If you did get, you'd have to go down onto the lower time frames, but if you got a little correction in here, you may get a wave Z up as some sort of WXY, X2. This would be your opportunity to get in just for a scalp pretty much. But it may, you never know, it may take off. And ideally, you're targeting that 100 fib, you know, this 100 fib on the daily. S&P, oh, sorry, AU200. This here is playing out pretty much how we're looking at it as well. We're looking at that A, B, C in the B wave, and then we get that A, B, C. This is taking quite a while, this correction in here to break out, but only looking for buys. You know, the H4, we got this A, B, very choppy C down. We're getting all this bullish divergence here. This is looking quite good. You definitely can look for the buy. Ideally, it goes up and breaks this top because we do have a possible bear hidden here. Between this low and this low, we don't have any bullish divergence, and we have a possible bear hidden. So you really ideally get a higher high here, and then if you get a correction or a flag, then you could look for the buy with confidence. Because this can still come down, break that low with the bear hidden, and then if you got a buy set up down here, you definitely want to look for any buy setup after you get that lower low, because I dare say we'll get even more bullish divergence in here. And then if you got a setup, you could look for the buy. Well, it'll be a good buy opportunity. And even if this does go up and break that top and gives you a correction, you know, this is something that you don't want to miss. It should be a nice trade. And again, you're targeting the 100 fib here on the daily. So, you know, there's quite a bit of upside in it left. The FTSE, very similar to AU, a little bit different, larger structure though. We've got an A, B, C, and then we got that A, B, C as the flat. So we've been looking for this 50 fib retrace of this move here. It's gone a little bit further. That's fine. It's still looking rather bullish. Yeah, all this here is looking bullish, and then we get an A, B, C breaking the top. H1, very similar to AU200. You have to be very careful at this stage because we do have a bear hidden here. So there's nothing to say that won't go and break that low. And then if you got a bullish setup, you know, you could definitely look for that buy. Or we want to see this top here broken and then give you a correction or a flag, and then you could look for the buy. So they're the two scenarios. For the sell, I wouldn't really, I mean, you could go down onto the lower time frame and look for a sell for the bear hidden. Whether it's valid to trade or not, I'm not going to go into, but yeah, I would be concentrating on the buys, not the sells. Unless you know how to trade the hidden divergences and all that. Oh yeah. So the DAX on the daily, this is quite difficult. We got that A, B, C. I'm still looking at it as an expanding flat. This is getting quite choppy, and we're getting all this bearish divergence in here. I definitely wouldn't be buying this. I'd be looking for like the A, B, C as an expanding flat, and then we get an A, B, C as some sort of a regular flat, or if it goes up and breaks this top, may turn into a running or expanding flat. H4, we're getting all the bearish divergence, you know. I just wouldn't be looking for buys. It's getting too risky to buy. On the H1, we may get a sell set up here. Like I said last week, I think we had that lower low here. You know, I was just looking for a correction in here, and then you could look for the sell. It's turned into a more complex correction as an A, B, C. This may be an expanding flat in here. And then if you got any sell set up in here, it will be a nice opportunity at the top of the market to get into a sell. So I hope you all enjoyed the weekly outlook. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe, share. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you out there next week.